So this sharing and testimony has been in my heart almost 16 years. Okay, which the whole complete story is probably that only my wife and my two children know about this. Okay, my sibling, they are playing part of the role of this, but they may not have that full pictures of this. So indeed, this is the first time that I make up this sharing. So the purpose of this sharing is that to let you know that how merciful, how lovely is our God. In something that unexpectedly, that He can lift up somebody. This person is my father. In his last minutes before passing on. That was in year 2006, which is almost about 16 years now. Let's talk a little bit about the background of him and the family first. My father came over from China, that's in Guangdong province, in Chaozhou area of Teochew, when he was 18. So that should be traceable to be in somewhere around year of 1948 also. He was not educated, okay, because the family was in the village, was poor, and his father, means my grandfather, passed away when he was at the age of 9, was being killed by the Japanese during the Second World War. So when they came over to the Singapore in probably 1948, there was of course this empty-handed, nothing. So start a new life when he was 18 years old. You know, in the traditional China, all these places, all these people are strongly in the Taoism. Okay, they believe in Taoism. Not exactly the Buddhist is Taoism. Okay, that means it's believe in some kind of God here. Okay, same as my father. There's no change. Of course, all these will be inheritance to the next generation like me. So he has been worked hard. We came from very humble family. I will probably can recall that when I was in my elementary school, that is probably primary school or towards that early secondary school, we were quite poor. I had 5 siblings, 2 older brothers and 2 older sisters. I'm the youngest. So just quote 2 examples to tell you about how poor we are. Okay. Once in a while we have apple to eat. Okay, so my mom will take this apple to cut into 6 pieces. So the 5 kids will have, each one have 1 portion. My mom will have 1 portion, but my dad never had 1 portion. Second example was that we had duck meat, we had chicken. This is Vietnam today. When I was in that point of time of the early secondary school or late primary school, my mother will say that, okay, because we had 2, the school always had 2 sections, one is morning, one is afternoon. So when I was in the afternoon class, means that my mother was have to prepare something for me to eat. So my mother tell me that go and get the buy the chicken rice, I'll be always very happy. Okay, because the chicken rice stall is very nice, just behind the block that we're staying. So when my mother say buy chicken rice, it's very clear cut in my mind. Meaning to say, just chicken rice, just rice, no chicken. Okay, then we'll ask the guy to add all this top up with all this gravy. We'll enjoy a lot. This is my family, right? My father continued to support his sibling in China, even though he was very poor. Which I would say that in some 50 years, which when I was in primary school or early secondary school at that point in time, his salary is probably come to around today. I mean, we convert to Vietnam dong is about 2 million to feed 7. Okay, that is about 100, slightly more than 100 Singapore dollars. So he will continue to send money over to China, including his younger brother, his elder sister, both are in China. He's not required to support his second elder sister who was in Hong Kong, which was quite okay. Then together with him, of course, he also had one eldest brother here in Singapore. So that had been laughed along, okay. But the good thing happened to be that, to my family was that all of them come from the same village. Most of them will work for the boss, who is actually our relative. Which what are they doing is that they are working as the company called some sort of like a fish merchant. Means that selling fish to the hawker at the central of the fish area. Okay, so this is their job. So because of selling fish and seafood, all this stuff, we get to have chance that even I may not have so much chance to eat chicken, eat meat, but I always will have chance to eat fish. That's why the boys is not so bad. Okay, consider quite loud in a way and become quite talkative. So he done a lot of good things for the family, and he's branded to be a very tremendous, nice people, always care of other people. Whichever things that he needed him, he will always be there. Okay, so he gained a lot of respect throughout his life. In 1989, that was after 1 year after my marriage to my wife. He got stroke, a severe stroke, when he was at the age of 49. So that was a painful thing because at that juncture of time, most of the siblings were still considered not that mature, and probably only my elder sister could be start working. The rest of most of them, including myself, we were probably that after school started work in a way, not that rich. Okay, but not too bad in a way. So he got that stroke. He get this strong determination to recover. He put out a lot of efforts to do the therapy, to do exercise. And he gained back about 80 to 85% after 3 months. Doesn't affect his talking, everything's okay. Of course, that throughout will be there. You could see that those people who got stroke before will tend to have one leg lean against another one, right? So that was it. You know, the older time, most of these people do not know how to take care of themselves. So they will typically have taken a lot of so-called fat and all this and build up high cholesterol affecting the heart. And in his younger time, he also smoked. To the extent that can be 2-3 packets a day. But his kind of people that who have a strong determination when he was at the age of 29 years old, he decided that was after his marriage. I still haven't born yet. Okay, he decided that to stop and he quit. and he really done it immediately. No hesitation. But somehow or rather, throughout the years, he's not really just like normal people that do not know so much about taking care of your health condition, cholesterol relevant to the heart and things like that. 1992, he was diagnosed because of breathing difficulties. He was diagnosed to have 3 blood vessels blocked to different extent. 3 out of 4. Including one of them is probably come to around 90%. So that poses alarm. That had to go for surgery. Had to go for not blowing, but bypass surgery. Bypass surgery is by means that to say that you have to take a vein from your leg here, you have to cut into your vein and then patch up, okay, to reconnect, okay. So that operation in 92, success rate in Singapore, 98%. Typically, people is able to get through the punch problem. We will expect that the surgery will take about 4 hours. Okay. 4 hours, of course, to the family is always be long. Okay. But finally, we have been waiting and waiting and waiting. Count by seconds. Eventually, he will push out of the theater after about 9 to 10 hours. So the story comes this way, according to what the consultant doctor were talking about. Now, when you go for such a bypass surgery, you will always at least that the surgeon must be a consultant level. So these people is the most senior in the hospital. Then there will be one registrar doctor, second man, then followed by those junior doctor, we call it medical officers. So in their protocol, when the surgery completed, come to a final stage of sewing back the chest, because the chest had to be opened up for hours, including oxygen support here and there, then eventually sew back. The consultant walked out of the theater, that the registrar job is to sew back the chest. Consider the operation okay. So all of a sudden, the whole string of blood, just like a fountain, choked up. That is very scary. They immediately call back the consultant. So out of the messy moment of that, the consultant used a kind of so-called tube. It's called fiber optic tube type, fiber, okay, vessel type, to do a patch up, to block it, okay, and they managed to hold it back, to stop the fountain of blood flowing. So he was safe at that junction. Then they sew back the chest again, second time. So the consultant spoken to us that what happened is that this kind of so-called the vessel just burst off in such a way and throw up. Okay, in such a case of the operation only happened at that moment of time, 1992, in the history 3 times. First guys immediately died at the operation. The second guy was about halfway through, gone. At that juncture, my father survived. Okay, so we were asked that to go back because it was already quite late. They say if there's anything urgent, then they will call us. Okay. or it's too late, sometimes urgent cases by protocol that you have signed the agreement, the doctor also can do whatever thing that they can in order to upkeep to save the patient. So indeed, at that midnight, they're forced to bring him to operation theatre one more round. Open the chest one more time. The reason is because of that, there was quite a severe blood clot, okay, at the juncture of time that it pressing on his heart. If he had not been cleared out all the clot over the surrounding area, he'll be gone. So they did that, no choice. For the second to third day, 3 days later, we were told that we had to go and top up the cost of the medical because it's already exceed the budget. Why you need to top up is because of that. They need to do blood transfusions to him. And he was consumed totally 29 packets of blood. In Singapore context, is supposing a family member go for such a surgery, they will ask a family member trying to get a few, go in hospital to do a donation, because typically it requires about 4 to 6 packets of blood. So my father take up 29 packets. So they say not because of the cost of operation, not that much here, but because of the blood expense. And we say, well, I thought the blood is free, supposed to be free. But they say that yes, the blood is free. But his scenario is as such that you know that there are 3 major components in the blood. One is called red blood cell, one is the white blood cell, one is called platelets. So he's not full thing that not available, but rather to say that some are not available. So they need to choose a component. They need to do a special equipment to do a separation to get pellets count for him. So he was saved in a short period, then on and off will have problems throughout. He spent 2 months in the hospital. With that, 2/3 of the time was in ICU. This period of time, I basically, in that 2 months, I in-out hospital some 200 times. Because I will visit him in the morning, I'll visit him during lunchtime, I'll visit him in the evening time. Then after that, my mom's house is nearby, we go to my house for dinner, and sometimes we still go after that one more round. Because it's always looks terrible. Here, all kinds of complications came out during that period of time, that including ulcers in the stomach, lack of oxygen in the brain, and chest affected, all kinds of things coming out. He will draw in to become one of the important sample for test for those junior to learn from the doctor and different discipline. That means that coming from those specialty, coming from brain, coming from heart, coming from stomach, everybody can see him. That was a difficult time. The doctor described that he managed to save him, but he has one big problem after this. Then they detected what happened is that when the surgeon put in the fiber vessel for him, there is a leaking point. There is a leaking point resulted in that. When the bloodstream flowing through, they were generating the kind of turbulence. This turbulence resulted in some wall breaking, and he will continue to have the so-called blood in urine because he continued to have bleeding, no stopping. That lasting for that subsequent from 1992 until he died in 2006, 14 years. He still can eat. He still can talk very loud because we eat a lot of fish, right? But he has never really gained weight. Okay, of course, this period of time we all grown up, we all become more mature. We have our own children. So the surgeon given that warning. He has no longer can be allowed to go for any kind of such a equivalent type of operation anymore because he will die on the spot. The bleeding that he has was quite tremendous, severe. He got to do two things. One is that his blood pressures must control at 110 and below at 70 in order to avoid further dissection. Okay, the units that he had before to that is called aorta dissection, means that the main blood vessel burst. Okay, explanation is that it could be because of certain intrinsic weakness of the vessels, but once that the bypass really went through, the blood able to flow through, the wall not able to get any burst. So this is the explanation. Indeed, at that juncture time, we were unbelievable. We was almost wanted to sue the hospital for any negligence. We consulted many people. One of them is one of my lecturers. So he told me that no chance. You want to prove anybody, any doctor who is negligent, this is unless otherwise, that is somebody in that operation theater say so, that this fellow do negligent, otherwise you can't prove anything. Okay, and they also cannot explain medically, so they was not able to do so. In any case, that period of time they continue to have this bleeding throughout, and one thing I think about is the blood pressure, and one thing is that he will be very easy to have bleeding out, even that if you need to go extraction of his tooth, must be in hospital, because they were afraid that they may not be able to control the blood flow bleeding out. Okay. So of course, within that period of time, he had all kinds of different problems that going through different doctors and going through, and in out hospital sometimes 2 weeks in a way. 2006 was the time in November that he was become quite weak. Suddenly also another thing happened that totally not able to breathe and also have difficulty. So my brother was with him in the hospital throughout the night. Then he was not able to find out what happened. So my brother went home in the morning when I arrived there. So I arrived there waiting, and then another, of course, that the senior consultant of the hospital came to see me. He said that, okay, let's have a talk about that. His condition now is that they have detected that his breathing internally is very severe. There's only two things to do. One, open heart, check it out, and see what they can do. They do not really have confidence of able to get this done. Second choice is that because he has been going through very tremendous difficult life, the family have to decide whether or not to go on with operation. Because if it's not to do so, that means that to allow the blood continue to drip out, and he will not able to survive maximum up to 48 or 72 hours. So I discussed with my family members. We basically all come to a common decision agreement that we will let him go. So there was a decision made when we start to get in many relatives to visit him. In the next day after that decision made, that was on Sunday, my son Sebastian and me, we still go ahead with the vertical marathon in Raffles City of Singapore. There's a climbing up for 73 stories. When I came back from that, I was in the hospital. So there was an Indian man who is sitting opposite my father. I mean, he's lying on the bed opposite the father, but he's much more older, so he's younger, he's some other problem, but he's quite okay. So he was telling me that in the morning, there were two birds from the window, they fly inside there, having stayed in on his foot for quite some time, and go out and come back again, repeat that. So that draw us some curiosity. After we go home, later part, I can't remember that it was probably come to about 5 something, and go back to the hospital. Then he said that somebody was visiting him and talking to him, then he was a bit so-called excited in the way. Although at that point of time, he already semi-unconscious. He lie on the bed, he may be not able to see you, sometimes he opens his eyes, and things like that in the way. My elder sister reflected that he was there at some time around that he saw my father that he was struggling, sort of using his hand, sort of pulling it in the way. Okay, so at that point of time, my father basically had not much strength, especially when they come to talk about he had ever had stroke before. Then of course that one side of the arm is always not that strong, not able to lift up well in the way. So what happened? The man tell us that somebody spoken to him were also very excited and struggling, which I guess that point of time we believe that one who spoken to him was one of my auntie. That means that his cousin, a younger cousin, of course is my auntie. Okay, she's a Christian. She was a Christian. For some reason, until now I cannot exactly recall when I was talking to Randall a couple of nights ago. We decided that to open up the drawing because the man was saying that he was writing something in a way to find out what he wrote. Eventually we found 4 pieces of paper that he was scribbling. When scribbling means to say that he was lying down, he's not able to see, not really. Okay, he was in old age, he's always, at that point, he's about 78 years old, 76 or 78 years old. He just scribbled like that. I took that 4 papers. I cried. Let's look at what he wrote. The first paper that he write over here, he was calling my name, Huang Chun. That is in Chinese, translated to be that I stepped in wrong foot. The last words was a bit wrongly because he was a bit confused, but can figure out this is what he want to say. So my name is clearly written, Huang Chun, and you the first 2 words. Okay. So the second paper here, because the paper was a bit messy here, but I'm trying to figure out that which ones will come first, which will come second by sequence or event. So again, he repeat the same thing here. He tell me Huang Chun, that is my Chinese name again. Father, okay, is in the midst of wrong path. The third one coming in. He say that give a call to this number. 988-72020. The numbers last 3 digits was precisely correct. Is my number. The first 4 digits was actually my sister's in-law's phone number. My second elder sister's in-law phone number. So it said that call this number. The name Huan Chun, me again. Okay? It said that is going wrong path. Come immediately. This way, turning. This way, turning. That is the ending portion of the word that you written over here. Right? Look at the last one. The translation is that downwards to hell. Can I have tissue paper? You come to this stage, I cry. It takes me a while to interpret what you're trying to say. So, my wife and my children and me, after I married, okay, we continue to attend church, okay, but I wasn't baptized. My faith wasn't that strong. That was in 2006, okay. When I see this thing here, struggling, what should be next? Knowingly that he may not have another 24 hours, or we don't know when. 2 hours later, there was what we at 7 something, 8 o'clock. Randall was with me at the bed there. I can't remember, I believe that Sebastian was there at that juncture. I wasn't know how to pray that sinner prayer. I came out the words. I asked him in Teochew, Father, do you want to believe Jesus? Hallelujah. He was weak. His hand lift out immediately and put down. So, we're a bit lost. I think Randall was more calm at that point of time. He was also struggling, she was also struggling. She called her niece because we know that one of the uncle on my niece is a Chinese pastor. So my niece received the call, immediately called his pastor, and he rushed into the hospital. When the pastor come to the hospital, at the bed there, he wanted to lead him to say the sinner prayer. But at that juncture of time, only my families are Christian, are believers. My brothers, my sister, especially my second oldest brother, was trying to block, to say that no, because whatever thing that father is in his harm, is already had decided what he want to go through, what he want to do after he passed away with the Taoism, whatever thing that traditional people. quite hard, it was quite difficult. So eventually, the pastor wasn't had time to talk to him, not given that opportunity to go through that formal way. So I have been always thanks God since then in my daily prayer. I thank God, I strongly believe that you have lifted him up in a very abnormal way, because he's no longer in the position to be able to speak. He no longer in a position to be very cautiously to tell, say, yes, I am in a way if you do so given an opportunity. But the circumstances wasn't able to permit was because of that. The family all are non-Christian except my family, and I wasn't that strong enough at that moment in time. So this portion was not true. I was spoken to Pastor a couple of days ago. So Pastor gave me that resource. He strongly believed that God has wanted to live. So this is something that you can call it to be a miracle, that oh, God is trying to lift up somebody who need help. He give that mercy to him. Sometimes my faith wasn't that strong from time to time. I would ask over to say that, can you give me a dream, tell me something, vision that you seriously have already get him by your side. But it was never felt that when I always will say thank God, I had that strong belief that you have lifted him out. Amen.
Amen.
So that was my family. There's also that one time as you go along until today, you know that my father was always proud of one thing of his life, when he in the position to tell some relatives and friends of his achievement. One of the things is that we have 5 siblings, 3 boys, 2 girls. I'm the youngest boy. All the 5 of us have 2 children. All the 5 of us having the line up there. First one is a boy, the youngest one is a girl. Just like mine, Sebastian, 2 years later, we have Elena. So this is something that he always very proud of, that to know that this is the family that he has. Okay, this is 10 years ago. My father no longer there. Okay, but you could see that there are 5 grandchildren. Okay, today we probably have another 1, 2, 3, 6 next generation. 4 come from me, the most. But all of them are doing well. In 2006, only 2 are Christian. That was in terms of grandchildren level. And today we have 4 Christian, 3 Catholic, and the other 3, be it whether to be Taoism or so-called rather to be fitting. So this is how it was moving on and getting on this stage. Well, we come to this stage here. I think a few important things coming into here, that we have to recognize that how wonderful, how merciful is our God. When my father come to this very difficult time, then you hear that they will say mention that there were 3 cases happened in Singapore of such a scenario, and he was given a chance. not 1 day, not 1 week, not 1 year, but 41 days. Even you don't know God. Or rather to say that even in the first 9 he noticed that Randall was the Christian when was not so agreeable that we should get married, but eventually he agreed with that because you guys decided things like that. So the situation will gradually change, and we're certain that God is trying to lift him up in this difficult time situation that he was going through tremendously. You know, sometimes in life I will also always have a kind of feeling that setback that maybe I still did not take care so well of my father when he was alive. Even thought that generally we are quite okay, we have been very well to him, which is most of the time was me and my second brothers who bring him to hospital, and he's basically that period of time was kind of that almost that every month had to go 2 times, 3 times check out. Tremendous. But anyway, all those have gone through, and we know that it is being come to stage that being lifted up. Of course, we feel peaceful, we feel good, and it is important to know that this juncture of time, the text is also that I'm still struggling over that how to touch my mom's heart. My mom is now having dementia and is no longer able to hear so clearly. In a couple of times I was trying to speak to him when I went back to Singapore, tell him about Jesus and things like that, then he will always cannot understand what is that terms and words in the way. So we continue to seek for this prayer that we're able to get this fulfilled. Okay? That's about the whole things of the episode that going through this period of time. To clarify one thing here, my father was not educated, but he had studied in a nighttime school when he was like some job over in Singapore, and he started to pick up how to do the right thing. So what you see just now over here, all these scripts of writing, you see it look like not so good in the way, but let me show you the truth. This is his handwriting. That is written on my school anniversary, so it's his graduation booklet. Tremendous, nice handwriting. I managed to inherit a little bit from him, not that good. Okay, and also that because of that, I also pick up pretty well in terms of the Chinese language. Okay, I also have a chance that he will give me a chance that to help to write letter to my younger uncle in the young town. So all these are blessings coming in, and this is what I want to share with you. Any question? I welcome any question here. Which is also a time whereby we're able to learn something together.
I hope your father must have a knowledge of Jesus Christ. I believe that. Maybe he can't speak out of that,
Yeah.
but he must be having a knowledge.
Yes, thank you.
The saving knowledge of Jesus Christ is more important.
So okay, just sidetrack a little bit. That do you know that in some about 1 or 2 weeks ago, that Singapore have announced that they have picked up their 4th generation leader. That is Mr. Lawrence Wong, going to be the next Prime Minister of Singapore. Okay, so that means he's going to be the one that once the next election, ruling party continue to got it, then he was going to be the next PM. So in the WhatsApp, they will come out with something very interesting that it showed that he was giving a picture of two Prime Minister and him. The first one was Lee Kuan Yew, the second one was the current Prime Minister, Lee Hsien Loong. Okay, the third one is that going to be the next Prime Minister, Mr. Lawrence Wong, on the picture. In each of these pictures, all 3 of them was actually showing in the TV that they will cry. So you know why I'm crying. Maybe I'll be next after this.
Amen. Amen.
Right? Okay.
Nothing is impossible.
Okay. Thanks God. And thanks for listening. Okay. Thank